top 100 movies. Massey's main entertainment.
I brought my raisin.
Hey everyone, it's Brian here from Massey's Main Entertainment. Welcome back to part 3 of our journey through the top 100 favorite movies of all time. I'm thrilled to be here with Doc, who seems to be experiencing withdrawal symptoms after last week's lack of a Bond movie. Randy, who's scrambling to catch up with all the movies on my list that he hasn't seen yet. And Rich, who is diligently practicing his alphabet for his own video series. So,
Right.
And of course, I'm here slightly anxious about the possibility of yet another Richard Dreyfuss movie lurking on one of our lists. So, our selections are all about personal favorites, everyone, not necessarily critical darlings. So expect a wide range of genres, eras, and maybe a few guilty pleasures. Doc's Bond obsession, obviously, Randy's marathon of new discoveries, and Rich's alphabetical odyssey, and my unpredictable mix. It's all here to share with you. So remember, these films represent what resonates with us personally. So don't hesitate to join in by sharing your own top picks. Let's celebrate our love for movies, regardless of whether they're blockbusters, hidden gems, or guilty pleasures. So grab your popcorn and let's dive into this top 100 favorite movies of all time. Gentlemen, we're in week 3 now. Is this getting a little easier or getting a little harder as we count this down?
I'd say a tad easier. That's what I would say. Maybe a little bit. You still probably tweak placements and stuff like that within the top 10, but your top 10s as you move along, I had a list that I'm working off of or whatever. They're kind of like hanging in the same neighborhood, might pop into a different 10 group or whatever. But I think it's just placement. Like I said, it's all personal favorites. And a lot of the movies, I think, when I said on the last one, and they're going to comment on it, and I'll say it again, man, a lot of it mood driven in a lot of senses. So I think it's, I got a big range. That's what I can tell you.
Yeah. Rich?
I pretty much. Oh,
Randy? Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead,
I pretty
Randy.
much kept to my list. I had one that I switched out, but otherwise, I kind of kept to my list on this.
Good.
Yeah,
Good.
I like when the cream rises to the top, and I actually get a lot of satisfaction. It brings back a lot of great memories talking about my favorite film. So this is really a awesome kind of series for us to do.
Yeah, awesome. I feel much the same way. I found it gets a little easier every once in a while. I'll see something. I go, should that movie have been on my list? And then I'm like, no, not really. I mean, I think your instincts really ring true at first. I think usually your first instinct about what's your top movies is usually your best instinct. It may, at the time, it may seem like it belongs, but I think longevity matters. Those things would have stuck in your head a little bit quicker. So
I agree. Can I interject one point?
Sure.
I like the longevity aspect because we recently did a video on best films of the 2000s, the last 25 years, and I only put 4 of those films on my list. So,
wow,
the majority of my stuff is pre-2000. So.
Right, because you really won't know until like 10 years from now whether you still like those movies.
I like the staying power aspect, the stuff that stood the test of time.
Yeah, good point. So tonight's order is going to be me. I have to lead off tonight. Doc's going to follow me in second spot. Randy, you've got the third spot. And Rich, he loves that last spot. So this is a good week for Rich. You're going to be very excited about it, I know for sure. Make sure you like, sub, and comment down below. Please give us your rankings as you go as well. I really enjoy looking at those and seeing if I find any additional movies that I need to watch and review. And just sit back and enjoy. So since I'm going first, I'll try to set the pace tonight, guys, and see how it goes. All right.
Here we go.
All right. So I'll jump right in at number 80. I've got a noir thriller directed by Orson Welles from 1958. I've got Touch of Evil. One of my favorite noir films. It follows a Mexican drug enforcement officer, Mike Vargas. Is played by Charlton Heston, which probably would mean it couldn't be made today like that, who with his American wife Susan becomes entangled in this complex web of crime and corruption on the U.S.-Mexico border. The story centers around a car bomb investigation leading to conflicts within the corrupt police captain Hank Quinlan, which is played excellently by Orson Welles. I think it's incredible performance by him, and it could be a more of a favorite for me than than Citizen Kane. So number 79, I've got Mel Brooks's Blazing Saddles here from 1974. It's a satirical comedy by Mel Brooks. I think we were talking earlier that it's a movie maybe that couldn't be made today, which would be a shame. Like Randy said, people really don't understand what was actually being said in the film. The film follows Bart, a black railroad worker who is appointed sheriff in an all-white town of Rock Ridge, with a corrupt politician, Hedley Lamar, hoping to drive the townspeople away for his own personal gain. He's initially met with hostility, but wins the townspeople over with his wit and bravery. I think even though the comedy's irreverent humor at times, I think it's a wonderful critique of racism and those Hollywood cliches that kind of existed prior to that film. So it needed to belong here. Number 78, I've got Richard Kelly's from 2001, Donnie Darko. The film centers on Donnie, a troubled teenager who narrowly escapes death when a jet engine crashes into his bedroom. It's a very surreal atmosphere in the film. You're not really sure which time frame you're kind of on. Guided by this mysterious figure in a menacing rabbit costume named Frank, which makes it all the more surreal. Donnie experiences disturbing visions and engages in destructive acts as he grapples with questions of time travel, fate, and his own sanity. I think it's it's a sci-fi horror teen drama all kind of put into one. It's a really good blend, and I just like the surrealism behind it. It makes it very artsy to me. So number 77, I've got The Birds from Alfred Hitchcock. It's already been mentioned, obviously, but I think two of you have already mentioned it. From 1963. Part of the Bird trilogy, along with Marnie and Psycho of the Hitchcock stuff. It's suspenseful horror that follows Melanie Daniels, obviously, as she travels to the coastal town. You guys talked about that, of Bodego Bay, to pursue a romantic interest in Mitch Brenner. So shortly afterwards, the town is inexplicably attacked by an aggressive flock of birds. You guys have already kind of covered that. I think this one kind of is maybe like in the top 7 movies for Hitchcock for me, but I also I weighed a little bit on my list about how it weighed critically a little bit and the importance of the film, and that's why it kind of got a little higher than maybe if I just went strictly by favorites, it probably wouldn't have made it into the top 100. So number 76, this was kind of a wild card for me. I've got the movie from Suzanne Bier from 2007 called Things We Lost in the Fire. The film follows Andra Burke. She is played by Holly Berry. She's a grieving widow trying to cope with the death of her husband, who was played very shortly in the film by David Duchovny. In an effort to find solace, she invites her husband's troubled friend Jerry, played by Benicio del Toro, a recovering heroin addict, to live with her and her children. And just through their shared pain and friendship, that they both find a path forward to kind of deal with the loss of Brian. In the film was his name, David Duchovny's character. I love slice of life movies, and that's why I picked this one. I can watch this anytime. It pulls at the heartstrings. It's funny, poignant. It's just nice film to watch. Number 75, I've got Do the Right Thing, Spike Lee, 1989. Powerful drama set in Brooklyn neighborhood, simmering with racial tensions on a sweltering summer day. The film follows Mookie, young black man played by Spike Lee, who works at Sal's Pizzeria, where racial animosities come to a head. As the heat intensifies, so do the conflicts in the neighborhood. Really highlights the destructive impact of racism, even in a community in which there was, acceptance and stuff. It seemed like the cultural tensions just kind of waded through all of that and eventually came to the surface. I think it's great that he kind of drew that parallel with the increase in heat outside, and the weather also increases the heat and agitation of the characters as they were going through too. So number 74, I've got Ed Wood by Tim Burton from 1994, biographical comedy drama about the life of Edward D. Wood Jr., often regarded as the worst filmmaker of all time. And actually, I own like 3 of those films. I think they're fun to watch just because. Film stars Johnny Depp as Ed Wood, who passionately pursues his dream of making movies despite his apparent lack of talent and resources. Supporting characters include Bela Lugosi, played by Martin Landau, a wonderful job, who's a fading horror star battling addiction. Wood's girlfriend, Dolores Fuller, portrayed by Sarah Jessica Parker, and his muse, Kathy O'Hara, played by Patricia Arquette. The film also features Bill Murray's character as Bunny Breckenridge. He's great. He's great. Jeffrey Jones, who's been, had some trouble of late, as Criswell. And then there's Vincent D'Onofrio plays Orson Welles in it. Really great film. I love watching it. Number 73. Sorry, Doc. I've got lost in translation here. Sofia Coppola, 2003. My apologies again. Yeah, Bill Murray plays Bob Harris. I talked about it in our other film, The Aging Star, who goes to Tokyo to film some whiskey commercials. He befriends Charlotte, played by Scarlett Johansson, young woman accompanying her photographer husband, and together they navigate their shared feelings of isolation and cultural dislocation in a foreign city. Though it seems like a very unlikely companionship, both characters find that fleeting sense of connection and understanding amidst their own personal uncertainties. So really good film to watch. 72, I've got Bicycle Thieves, Vittorio Del Sica from 1948. Really a poignant neo-realist Italian film played by, I think the main character is played by Lamberto. I'm trying to remember how to pronounce it. Maggiorani. He's a poor man from post-world Rome who desperately needs his bicycle for his new job to support his family. When the bike is stolen, him and his son embark on a heartbreaking journey to the city to try to retrieve it. The vision for the film was really to portray the harsh reality of poverty and the human condition, using non-professional actors and on-location shooting to enhance the film's authenticity. The film is celebrated for its powerful storytelling, emotional depth, and unflinching depiction of struggles faced by ordinary people in that post-war society. So really strong movie, wonderful. Okay, for number 71, I've got Dr. Strangelove from Stanley Kubrick in 1964. A dark comedy satirizing the Cold War fears of the nuclear conflict. Peter Sellers playing multiple roles, including the bumbling U.S. president and that paranoid ex-Nazi scientist and a British Air Force officer as well. As the world kind of teeters on a nuclear annihilation due to some deranged general's rogue actions. Kubrick's film uses absurdity and sharp wit to highlight the insanity of the arms race and potential for human error that could lead to catastrophe for all mankind. So George C. Scott's role in there too should be notable, as well as the general who gets upset if they're going to get an opportunity to review, see the big board. I think that was the exact line. They're going to see the billboard. That's my list, guys.
Very good.
Very good.
A little bit of everything. You got suspense, you got film noir, you got comedy, you got a classic or two. Hitchcock's in there as well. Good stuff.
I mean, obviously, there's probably one I'd probably omit. And then,
yeah, I wonder which one that is. I'm not sure.
No guesses. But yeah, it's obviously a very, I think, diverse list. I think they're summed up pretty good there. A little bit of everything.
You have a couple that will appear later in my list. So,
oh, cool.
Yep.
All right, so Doc, you're on deck then, buddy.
Doc's just going to be Doc, man. It's not going to sound anything like your list. I'll tell you that. I can't remember what your number 80 was. I can't remember what it was, Brian, but I'm putting this on before your number 80, whatever that was. I can't recall what it was. I think it was Orson Welles.
Touch of Evil.
Touch of Evil was.
Touch of Evil.
Yeah.
Great movie. But I'm putting Robocop on.
Robocop.
I put that
Nice.
on. So that's my number 80, Robocop. So yeah, I'm going to go to 1987 with this one, with the ultimate satire of violent movie. A really dysfunctional Detroit city here in the future with basically criminals running wild, and Peter Weller's character in the police department, taking one for the team, shall we say, and becoming an experiment on a different kind of weapon that they can use in the city on how to enforce, shall we say, the law in the city. Kurtwood Smith plays Clarence Boddicker, which is just one of those roles that's probably held him back. He was so good as the bad guy in that movie, if you want the truth, man. Nancy Allen's in it. We got Ronnie Cox and Peter Weller playing in Robocop. So the ultimate tongue-in-cheek, violent as hell, but real guy kind of flick in my books, man, on a sci-fi kind of thing. So Robocop's my number 80. We did 1995, number 79, with Martin Scorsese's Casino. This is pretty high on my Scorsese rewatch list, I'll say that. I don't think the movie gets enough love, if you want the truth. Like, De Niro's character, set up by the mob to run basically a casino down in Vegas or whatever, but he's got a dysfunctional, shall we say, a bit of a love interest in Sharon Stone and his best friend. These two people are played by Joe Pesci, are out of sorts is a nice way to put things. It really puts a lot of pressure on him and how he handles his business and how he handles his personal life. So, yeah, I think it's one of Scorsese's better shown movies on how he actually shows it. The directing. Scorsese directed movies are always top notch, man. So, I have a soft spot for this one, man. And we talk about it once in a while there, Rich, and we bring it up. That's if it's on, I don't care what part I'm at, I'm watching this one too. So that's how Casino gets me. Going back to 1987 for my number 7. I'm going to Planes, Trains, and Automobiles at number 78.
Ooh.
Yeah. Now it's Steve Martin playing almost like the straight kind of guy, and John Candy playing the quirky oddball kind of guy, and really you want to hate the guy, but you learn to love him as you move, kind of thing. With the movie, the movie's got a lot of heart here. The Thanksgiving movie, the adventures of these two guys crossing paths and hooking up, and it's a John Hughes movie. It's not that new now. It's 1987, man. So this is it's got some legs behind it in my eyes, and I think it's got a movie with a lot of heart, and sometimes you want to see that. It's a staple in a lot of senses. The scenes that are funny. This movie's freaking hilarious at times too, man. There's some scenes that are just classic. So, yeah, go rent a car. That's freaking good enough right there. That's all I have to say. But Planes, Trains. I love the movie, man. I think it's that's a top 10, top 100 favorite, man. What can I tell you? Number 77 is going to go into 1971. And Popeye Doll going to make an appearance here in The French Connection. So that's where I got.
Ooh. Okay.
Placement might be one thing on some of these things, but I love these movies, man. So I'm a huge Gene Hackman fan. And this is like, this movie is the ultimate New York setting movie, the ultimate gritty, hardcore realism of a cop that's really on the edge here, man, of Popeye Doyle and, the drugs company from France, and they're trying to bust the bad guy. And Schneider's his partner in this. The performance of Hackman is top tier here. So this has a lot of, I'd say this in the sense of like, the real with the cops, and this is the way it was going down. So I think it's a realism in a lot of sense. French Connection, I think, is a classic movie, man. So that's my number 77. We go to 1980, or my number 76 with The Changeling. I do like my, should we say my hidden gems, I like to call them once in a while, or things that don't get talked about enough, but I'd say this is almost a classic or almost a cult movie in some senses, The Changeling. I think people that do like it a lot. I'm kind of one of those people. So get George C. Scott in I don't know, paranormal horror haunted house movie, man. It's almost like a mystery undertones to go with it. Creepy scenes. It's really well written. It's really well directed. The way the camera moves throughout this movie, you're flowing with him as he goes. And there's some pretty good jump scenes in the movie too, but some classic scenes. Yeah, the wheelchair chasing or the ball bouncing down the stairs or anything along those lines. There's some. If you know the movie, you know what I'm talking about. But The Changeling is a creepy mystery horror kind of flick, man. And George C. Scott, can't go wrong in my eyes there either. So. And then number 75, 2006. I got Pan's Labyrinth here.
Ooh. Yep.
Yeah. Guillermo del Toro. This is his best movie. This is like the ultimate fantasy adventure horror, most war-torn kind of flick in one sense. There's so much going on. It's a real escape movie. If you want the truth, you want the fantasy escapism in a movie. This is a movie that offers that with some really harsh undertones and some really, it can be a little violent, a bit of everything in it, but the fantasy is the driving force behind the whole picture in a lot of senses. So, and is it real? Is it not real? And all these kind of things. And you can ask yourself these questions as you go through this movie and stuff like that. But it's a real escapism, is what I would call it. So, Pan's Labyrinth is kind of like a little bit, kind of like a masterpiece in the genre, in some senses. So, number 74, I'm going to 2000. I'm going to go to M. Night Shyamalan's Unbreakable. Okay. Now, I like some of the early M. Night Shyamalan stuff here, and this is one of them, obviously. I know some of you guys aren't big fans of Signs, but I think his first three movies are pretty darn good, if you want the truth. Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, and Signs. I think it's a pretty good trifecta to start the career. Unbreakable is not here coming in for me. Like Bruce Willis in this superhero movie. Unknown superhero kind of movie, I guess. It's got a lot of visual aspects of it that can give you different hints on how the story goes. He used it quite well in The Sixth Sense with the color red. He uses it here with the color green. It's just a flow. There's not much pace, but there is a lot of pace. You know, you're a supporting actor in here. Samuel L. Jackson is, you know, the character Glass there, Mr. Glass, and it shows you the two opposite spectrums of what a superhero or an anti-superhero might look like and stuff like that. Unbreakable's really, really well crafted flick, man. That's my number 74. So number 73, I'm going to 1985s. I got Harrison Ford in Witness. So love this movie. Guess a little bit of shout out there for you, Randy. There, man. I got a Peter Weir movie in here for you. There, you're gonna like that. But you got Harrison Ford. You know, Kelly McGillis is in this. I think Danny Glover's in this. Basically, it's the underlying story of, you know, some corrupt cops doing some bad stuff. Somebody sees it, really shouldn't see it, then become a target of, you know, how to erase who saw what was seen. So, some pretty tense scenes in this movie. Great flow, great setting. Everything around it, I think, you know, but the Amish setting and everything else that goes with it. Now the hiding and the cat and mouse games and the chase and everything else that goes on. In this movie, it's fantastic. So, Witness is definitely rewatchable for me. This is how I try to look at some of these things. So maybe number 72 from 1968. I got Bullitt. My buddy Steve McQueen. Yep. Steve McQueen was just house sitting, man. He was just hanging out. You know, I'm going to watch these guys for a little bit. You know, no big deal. I'm just going to go out for a minute. Then, no, hey, things go south. So we're just doing a little babysitting watchdog kind of stuff. It really does go south. Protecting a guy that's going to testify against the bad guys. I think we talked about it before at one time or another here. Bullitt's got some classic scenes, you know, outside the car chase and stuff like that. There's a lot of really good scenes in this movie, and Steve McQueen is the ultimate cool dude outside everything else. But you know, like I said, you know, he's original almost in some senses. In one sense, almost like a Dirty Harry kind of character and stuff like that. And I love that kind of cop, anti-cop kind of thing and stuff. The way his character acts sometimes. So it's Bullitt's classic, man. So like I said, placement might be one thing. So I'll end my list of number 71 in 1993, Spielberg's Jurassic Park. It's another one of those adventure classic kind of flicks, man. And when Jurassic came out, you didn't really see anything like this. You know, 93, now you're going back a while, right? So you go back 30 years, and you think about when you first saw that, man. That ending scene when the T-Rex and the banner's flying down, it goes out the big scream at the end of it. They're running out of the building at the end of it. You're going, oh. That's adventure. It's the jump scares come at you Fast and Furious in this one, and you're moving. The legs are moving, and the raptors are jumping at you, and the dinosaurs are let loose on an island. It's going to be a theme park. You can talk about the actors and everything else. That's the star of this movie is the dinosaurs, and it's what it was then. It's still adventurous now, and it still holds up pretty good to me in my eyes. So you want a fun, good little popcorn flick, man. Jurassic's not a bad one to fall back on. That's why it's going to make my list. Number 71.
Nice.
Right.
A lot of Doc movies in there.
Yeah.
Totally.
that are not a
My whole
surprise,
list is going to be Doc.
not really a surprise to me at all. A lot of them. I'm going, yeah. Doc has talked about those. Yeah. Okay.
Totally.
Good
Nice.
stuff. I've got several in there that are going to be on my list later on as we work our way
Oh,
up.
fantastic.
Right.
But I will say this: of those 10, not that it may or may not be on my list, Pan's Labyrinth is the most brilliant of those 10 in my eyes. Just on filmmaking and everything he puts on the screen, the effect it has on you when you're done watching it. That's an unbelievable, one of a kind movie that I'll never forget.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Totally agree. Yeah, it's like I said, it's a bit of a masterpiece in that genre, man, for sure.
It is. There's no
Totally.
question about it.
Nice. Brandy, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right.
So for number 80, I have from 2014. Yeah, I do have a couple movies from after the 2000s. It's the Grand Budapest Hotel, Wes Anderson. A wonder of a film with these fantastic sets that are all in symmetry, which is a kind of a thing for him. Now, this has caused some to accuse Anderson of being more style over substance. But I enjoy the quirky characters and the sets. And this has one of the best storylines, I think, of any of his movies with Ralph Fiennes, and he can do no wrong in this one. Wes Anderson's so good at creating another world, kind of these strange realities that seem so much more interesting than our own world. But and it's the most Wes Anderson of Wes Anderson films, and to me, that's a good thing. And it's probably my favorite of his.
Oh, nice.
Number 79 from 1945, I have The Body Snatcher from Robert Wise. Robert Wise was so good in directing pictures in so many genres, from film noir to musicals to horror. And he is great here with this macabre tale from producer Val Lewton. In this, Boris Karloff shines as this just gonna say my words here, ruthless cabbie and grave robber who supplies Henry Danielle with bodies for his medical students. And he goes a little overboard in his quest to supply fresh bodies. And this one, Karloff delights in making Danielle feel uneasy, holding this uneasy alliance over his head. And this was supposedly Karloff's favorite role, and he's fantastic in it. So on to 78, which is one that's been mentioned before, and that's from 1939, The Wizard of Oz, Victor Fleming directed. An all-time classic from 1939, which has been called the greatest year in film, as so many critically acclaimed films came out that year. Most people know this movie, so I'll just comment on a couple of things, and that's those flying monkeys scared the heck out of me when I was a kid.
Nice.
And they're still a little spooky. And also, Margaret Hamilton is one of the all-time villains as Miss Gulch, and also the Wicked Witch of the West. A brilliant fantasy that has stood the test of time. All right. Number 77, Le Cercle Rouge from 1970, Jean-Pierre Melville, also called The Red Circle. Melville was great with genre pictures, and he takes the heist film to new heights. With this one, it has Alain Delon as the master criminal who teams up with escaped criminal Gran Maria Volente, who was a veteran of spaghetti westerns, to pull off this diamond heist. It also has Yves Montand as an ex-cop in there to help him out. The heist sequence is one of the most mesmerizing in film. It's 27 minutes in length without any dialogue. I also love the muted colors from cinematographer Henri Decaille that contribute to the look of this gritty film. He also did The 400 Blows, Elevator to the Gallows, Boys from Brazil, Samurai. Just a wonderful film from Jean-Pierre Melville. Number 76, and this is one I just watched the other day to make sure it was in my list. I still love it. That's Defending Your Life from 1991. Albert Brooks. This takes a unique look at the afterlife, where you're judged on your courage and conquering your fears, and that's what lets you go on, or you have to go back to Earth and try again. Albert Brooks has to go to Judgment City and defend his life. It's such a cool idea where clips from your life are shown on the screen in the courtroom. His lawyer is expertly played by Rip Torn, who I thought should have got an Academy Award nomination for that. And Lee Grant is also great as the prosecutor. And his love interest is Meryl Streep, whose judgment is going very well because he goes in and peeks on her films, and she's like coming out of this house, saving these two kids, and runs back in to get the dog. And so Albert Brooks is starting to feel like he has no hope. It's a great film, I think.
It is.
Number 75 from 1946, Gilda from Charles Vidor. Our introduction to Rita Hayworth is the most famous hair flip movie history, as you see her at the first part of the movie. It also stars Glenn Ford as a roustabout who befriends George McCready, and he ends up running McCready's casino. Hayworth just oozes sex appeal in this movie, who marries McCready but has a past with Glenn Ford character, which causes a lot of problems. George McCready is silently menacing, as he was in many films, and Hayworth is sexy as they come in this rewarding noir. 74. This picture has a tie-in with Rita Hayworth, as prisoner Andy Dufresne, played by Tim Robbins, has her picture on the cell wall, and that's the Shawshank Redemption from 1994. Frank Darabont, and that's and this movie it's followed by posters from Marilyn Monroe and Raquel Welch, and they play an important part in the movie. What really draws us into this movie, I think, though, is Morgan Freeman's narration as Red Redding, and the time director Frank Darabont takes in introducing us to the different characters. This movie really gets us invested in the story, which is really cool. And it's one of the most frequently shown on television, I think, and there is a reason for that, because it's just a classic. And also, I don't know if you can see this, Shawshank Prison.
There you go.
It was
Cool.
shot in Mansfield, Ohio. I think it's a reformatory, or I can't remember what this building was before that. But number 73 is from 1923.
Woo.
Safety Last. Listed as directors are Fred Neumeier and Sam Taylor, but this is a Harold Lloyd film. I think it's his best film, and it's called a comedy thriller because of the daring stunts that are truly breathtaking. I remember being mesmerized as a kid viewing it, but they don't really show silent comedies anymore like they used to do on like Saturday afternoons, unless I guess maybe TCM is about the only way you could catch it. Yeah. But anyway, some of those stunts were used by perspective, and they weren't as dangerous as they appear, but they were still pretty risky, because he could have fallen and then fallen on down, even though they had a platform there. It was very narrow, but hence the title Safety Last, which is really true about the filming of that movie as well. He did use a stunt double on some of the long shots, but many of the stunts were done by him. All of this to impress a girl and show his success in the big city. It's just a silent classic. Number 72 from 2007 from Joel and Ethan Coen, the Coen brothers, No Country for Old Men, a classic crime thriller with Josh Brolin's character getting involved over his head, and Javier Bardem, if I can say his name, as Anton Chigurh, the unstoppable force in pursuit of Brolin and the money that Brolin stumbled upon. Bardem has this well-deserved Academy Award for the psychotic villain, and he has this stringent code of ethics. If he promises that he's going to kill you, he has to fulfill it. So,
Right.
Also wonderful are Woody Harrelson and Tommy Lee Jones as the sheriff, and that's kind of who the title applies to. No Country for Old Men, one of the several Coen masterpieces. And my 71, I'm going back in time again. 1933, King Kong, Marion Cooper and Ernest Schoedsack. One of the first big monster movies that starts out as a big adventure film. It has this great stop motion effects of Willis O'Brien, who influenced so many others. And it gave the monster this ability to display emotion, which was really the key to that. The effects were amazing for the time, and there were some scenes that had to be cut because they were too frightening for some audience members at the time.
Wow.
Really?
Schoedsack and Cooper, they both came from documentary filmmaking, and they tried to make the scenes as realistic as possible. You also have Fay Ray, who's great as the wonderful heroine, I guess you could call her, but she's so wonderful that even the monster is attracted to her. It's just a classic time.
Great.
Nice.
That's my other one.
Good list. Some of those movies are going to appear on my list later on. Won't say which, where, but yep.
Same here.
And you, and of course,
Definitely.
you're going back further in time than I have so far. So I kind of expected that.
I like the fact that you put Defending Your Life in there. It's one of my favorite films too, although it may or may not make the list. But I love that movie. I'm an Albert Brooks fan, so happy to see that.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right,
Rich?
cleanup time.
Rich?
Here we go. Number 80 from 1983, a little gem of a film, Local Hero. Very low-key kind of movie. Takes place in a Scottish village. Peter Riegert, of all people, plays this oil executive who's sent from Houston, Texas, over to convince the local people in Scotland to sell their village so they can build an oil refinery there. Really interesting premise. Quaint town that he's, or village, I should say. Burt Lancaster is his eccentric oil magnate boss who sends him over there. There's some great scenes with him. It's a real sleeper. It's funny, it's charming, and it slowly wins you over. Slowly wins Peter Riegert over, his character. It's very heartwarming. I just got caught up in this movie. I saw it in the theater when it came out in '83, and I've always liked it. It slowly seduces you, and like I said, the townspeople. It's got this Mark Knopfler soundtrack, Mark Knopfler of Dire Straits, and there's a little fairy tale element too, with a real life mermaid in the local water, the pond or whatever, the lagoon, I should say. My number 79. I always bring this up, and I'm sticking with it. What's Eating Gilbert Grape from 1993. I really have an affection for this movie. An offbeat coming of age film with Johnny Depp playing Gilbert, the local grocery store clerk in a small Iowa town. He lives with his mentally disabled brother, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, in a knockout performance. His two sisters and his morbidly obese mom. It's a slice of life movie. It's got some drama. It's got some comedy. The characters you definitely care about, I think, and they're living everyday lives, these folks, and trying to find their way, their little niche in the world. And I just like these kind of films. Supporting cast: Juliette Lewis, Mary Steenburgen, and John C. Reilly as well. Number 78 from 1970, Robert Altman's MASH. Another one of these offbeat comedies set in the Korean War field hospital here. Groundbreaking at the time with the irreverent humor. The bloody operating room scenes are unforgettable. There's sexual hijinks going on with the nurses and stuff. Maybe you wouldn't get away with that by today's standards. It's definitely politically incorrect, some of the language used. But I like Altman's style of weaving all these characters together, and the overlapping dialogue is his claim to fame. It's in full form here. It spawned an even better TV series, in my opinion, with Alan Alda in the lead as Hawkeye Pierce. And this film stars Donald Sutherland, the late Donald Sutherland, Elliot Gould, Sally Kellerman, Robert Duvall as Frank Burns, and a cast of other characters. Number 77, 1953, Fritz Lang's The Big Heat. This is Glenn Ford as the cop versus the underworld here. It's a great film noir thriller, really tough, uncompromising, some brutal violence. Lee Marvin is the heavy here, and he's mean-spirited thug, mobster, and takes his vengeance on a woman, which is, it's hard to watch, but it's effective in this movie. He's frightening. It's nonchalant violence that he comes up with, and I don't want to get too graphic, but it's brutal. Gloria Graham is the woman in the movie who Lee Marvin's girlfriend. She's fantastic in this role. I think Glenn Ford's an underrated actor. Never was nominated for an Oscar, and he always is solid in these lead roles. If you like these hard-boiled thrillers with tough as nails characters and sharp, witty dialogue, this one's first rate, and I would recommend it. Number 77, The Big Heat. Number 76, William Friedkin, 1985, To Live and Die in L.A. Love it. Secret Service agent played by William Peterson, out for revenge against a counterfeiter played by Willem Dafoe, who killed his partner early in the film. And it's just a great action-paced thriller, unpredictable, lots of twists, turns, surprises. The good guys are flawed. They're underhanded as well as the villains. The villains are sometimes more intelligent than the good guys. There's like a play there on trying to outshift each other and outsmart each other. Love that. Buckle up if you haven't seen it, because there's a car chase scene in here that is as good as Bullitt, as good as The French Connection. It's an all-time classic on the streets of L.A. Willem Dafoe gives an all-time performance as this counterfeiter and his little slimy world he lives in. John Turturro is at his Weasley best, too, as I guess an informant or something, and he has his own little stuff going on. Dean Stockwell appears in this, too, in a good role, so I'm going to put that at number 76. Number 75, 1946, The Best Years of Our Lives, directed by William Wyler. This is a coming home from World War II kind of movie. Three GIs return home after the war. It's a time capsule of that era, post-World War II America. They're adapting to life at home after they survived the horrors of war, the physical, emotional, and psychological damage that they endure. The three soldiers played by Dana Andrews, Frederick March, and Harold Russell, who's a real-life amputee and does a all-time performance. I mean, he's not really an actor per se, but you believe everything he says and does in this movie. It's a different kind of war film. It's reminiscent of Coming Home and The Deer Hunter later on in the 70s, where you see how these people adapt. To me, it's a must-see film. Beautifully directed and acted by the entire cast. The women are played by Myrna Loy and Teresa Wright and Virginia Mayo. So a really good cast for that time. Number 74, 1960, Billy Wilder's The Apartment. Another Best Picture winner, just a classic romantic comedy with just the right amount of drama thrown in. Jack Lemmon here plays a insurance office worker, and he's trying to climb the corporate ladder by doing favors for people and allowing the managers to use his apartment for their extracurricular marital activities. They're having affairs in his apartment. He's unaware, though, that his boss, played by Fred McMurray, is involved with the girl he has eyes on, crush on, an elevator operator played by Shirley MacLaine, in a really winning performance. Great cast. It goes on from there. There's a lot of ins and outs and stuff that happens. I like the chemistry between Jack Lemmon and Shirley MacLaine as well. It's kind of an adult, intelligent comedy, and I think it still holds up. I like it better than Some Like It Hot. They were back-to-back in Billy Wilder's filmography. They're both great. Number 73, Cool Hand Luke, 1967. Paul Newman, one of his iconic roles, no doubt about it. The total nonconformist. He's in prison, working on the chain gang. Great character study of a guy who just cannot follow the rules. You got Strother Martin there emphasizing that with the great line, failure to communicate. What we have here is a failure to communicate. That's a great performance. George Kennedy is won the supporting actor Oscar for A Fellow Prisoner. You throw in that memorable egg eating scene and a scantily clad buxom beauty washing the car with all the soap. There's a lineup of great scenes in this movie. And it's definitely in the handful of Paul Newman quintessential performances for me. Number 72, this was done earlier as well, 1975, 3 Days of the Condors, directed by Sidney Pollack. Political thriller. You get the CIA analyst played by Robert Redford, who returns from his lunch break to find all of his coworkers murdered. An edge of your seat thriller, tense, suspenseful. And again, he has to find out who he can trust, if anyone, even the higher up. I mean, they're trying to bring him in, and he's a little apprehensive about coming in because he doesn't know whether he's being set up or not. The love interest here with Faye Dunaway, who he meets along the way, you could argue that doesn't belong in the script, maybe, but I don't have a problem with it. Faye Dunaway and Robert Redford have the chemistry. I like Max von Sydow as the hired assassin. What was he, Australian or Alpine Swiss? I forget his nationality, but he's chilling in the role. And Cliff Robertson here is the boss that you never know where he stands as well. My number 71 is a comedy from 1933, Duck Soup, the Marx Brothers. All four of them in this one, Groucho, Harpo, Chico, and Zeppo. Kind of a zany comedy where Groucho plays the leader of a fictitious country named Fredonia. And you got Harpo and Chico playing spies from a neighboring country, Sylvania. Just full of one-liners and sight gags and shenanigans. Everything you expect in a Marx Brothers movie. There's a classic mirror scene, which is priceless. I won't give that away, but it's just a sight, all-time classic stuff. And one thing I want to say here, this is Zeppo's final film. He went on to do other things other than acting. But there's one scene in here where in those days in 1933, you could not show a man and a woman in bed together.
Right.
And in the woman's bedroom, the camera pans and you see at the foot of the bed, you see a man's shoes, you see a woman's shoes, and then you see 4 horseshoes. And then the camera cuts to a shot of the entire room, and you see Harpo in bed with a horse and the woman in bed alone. It's just funny stuff, the way they set it up.
Nice.
And it had to be on my list at number 71.
Nice.
Very good.
I really like Best Years of Our Lives choice. That's going to appear later on my list. I'm a big fan of that movie. Teresa Wright, and I crush on her for a little while too. She's just absolutely gorgeous, beautiful.
Oh, yeah, adorable. Yeah.
Really liked it. According to my calculations, I think that puts us at we didn't match on anything on today's video, but we matched if we went backwards on four things, I believe. And so that puts us at 114 different movies so far. 3 videos in, not bad.
Definitely.
Yeah. Anybody else got something to? No? No. All right. So that's going to wrap up our video then. One thing I wanted to say before we go, I wanted to give a big RIP out for Donald Sutherland. We lost him. We lost him this week, and I think he's one of those underrated actors that never really got the love that he should have gotten. There's probably several roles that we could all name where we feel like he could have gotten nominated pretty easily for actor or supporting actor. It's just a shame that he never did. Although I don't think that type of thing was important to him. He just loved actually acting, whether it was a small bit part or whether it was a very large, leading role. He just loved to act. So I wanted to give a shout out to Donald for sure. I really appreciate everyone watching. Be sure to like, sub, and comment down below. Leave a copy of your videos as we go so I can see what you guys got going on for your list. And until next time, we'll catch up with you for part 4. Take care. Bye-bye.
Peace.